I'm Tejas Desai, Director of Thematic Research at Global X ETFs, and you're watching Taking Stock.
Spectacular market. 2 minutes to go until the one and the only truly iconic closing bell down here on the trading floor of the New York Stock Exchange. Speaking of truly iconic, before I got here, Peter Tuchman, the Einstein of Wall Street, as we await the Big East conference here, set to do the honors. Nice pop for the markets today here, Peter. The S&P up 0.3, the Dow up 0.3.
Yep.
Yields in decline. What'd you see today overall?
You know what? I saw that everybody's really anticipating. Tomorrow's a huge day. Obviously, a lot of earnings tomorrow, NVIDIA tomorrow. People are curious why, for the first time in 8 days, we're seeing a 3% pop in NVIDIA coming into earnings. If we go back to November last year, right, when we saw Palantir go up 7 days in a row, earnings came out, they were stellar earnings, and the stock went down 9%. 3 weeks later, NVIDIA was going down for 3 weeks in a row. Earnings came out, they were stellar, and it went up. So you never know. This old Wall Street is buy the rumor, sell the news. So there's so much. Think about it. Everybody also is in deep rotation mode. You have to realize that a lot of funds are having to rotate out of some of their Mag 7 and a lot of the tech sectors because they're way over their skis as far as percentage in the portfolios. These are stocks that have gotten high. Think about how high some of these names are. Right? Like Palo Alto, it's a $160 name. In March, it's trading at 300 and change.
Yeah.
People need to understand things in perspective when we look at a day.
We got a big one tomorrow. Please come and see us again.
I appreciate it.
Time now for the closing
Nixon
bell.
5.
There you have it. I'm very biased when I say the Big East Conference is the greatest conference in all of college sports. Of course, I am proudly a Villanova graduate. We will have the outgoing commissioner of the Big East Conference, the one and only Val Ackerman. She will join us coming up here in just a bit. But first, your final tale of the tape on this Tuesday, August 25th. The S&P 500 in the green 0.3, the Dow in the green 0.3. The Stock Exchange Composite Index up fractionally, and the small caps on this Tuesday afternoon, the best of the bunch, up 0.5%. Merck, Goldman Sachs, NVIDIA, the big winners in the Dow. Your Dow laggards on this Tuesday afternoon, Nike, Salesforce, and McDonald's. Overall for the S&P 500, tech, telecom, and healthcare, those are the outperformers. We do have some sell pressure, though, in consumer staples, consumer discretionary. They don't oftentimes move together, but today they did. Energy in the red as well. NVIDIA up about 2% into the close. Of course, that sets the stage for tomorrow's can't-miss earnings call, 24 hours away. Amazon, the laggard of the Mag 7, shares of SpaceX up about 2.5%, finding some nice consolidation right around 138. Let's bring in one of our great go-to guests, Ben Emmons, founder and CIO at FedWatch Advisors. My man, nice to see you here today.
Good to see you, man.
You and I both wore our red ties, and yet the market said, no, we're going to go to green today.
Green
Forget
today.
what those guys have to say. So, listen, we're not on the technicals at all-time highs, but we're basically at all-time highs. The market has been incredibly resilient, shaking off one concern after another concern. How are you thinking about how we are placed in these markets as we inch a little bit closer to September?
Yeah, we are going to go a bit volatility period, I think, JD, because what people's on mind right now is that these midterm elections are going to be right in sight, and it could change things, right? Because what we're seeing playing out with Iran, what we're seeing playing out with Canada, it's all playing into this midterm election battlefield. And I think markets are judging like the AI premium in the markets is very high. There's a lot of political backlash to the data centers, and it plays in the midterm election. So we're in a good market currently, not bearish, but I do think there's a volatility period between now and the midterm elections till we clear that out. So we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, well, speaking of data centers, speaking of AI, this time tomorrow we will hear from Jensen Huang and his famous Tom Ford leather jacket, the latest quarterly results for NVIDIA, not just the powerhouse of the AI trade. In a lot of ways, NVIDIA is also the banker of the broader AI trade. What has to go right for the stock to rally after earnings, unlike what we've seen the last 4 quarters?
Right, so one thing with NVIDIA has always been is that the estimates are very high, and then NVIDIA beats that estimate, but the expectation is even higher than the beat. And that's why the stock has been so dreadful afterwards. options market are implying a 7% move. That's been kind of consistent the last few quarters. So what has to go right here is that, one, the story about raising prices on various of different components that was out the other day, that is not something that's going to be broad-based, because that's not good for margins. I think markets see that negative. Second, you mentioned, they are financing equity in all these different hyperscalers and other companies. What's their plan there? Because that's been the risk to the NVIDIA stock, is that the CDS of NVIDIA has blown out because of that increased equity risk. So I think that's what markets will be paying attention to as we get to the earnings. Great beat, it's going to be a good beat, for sure. That's why the stock is rallying. But I'm not sure if it's going to be a good story afterwards.
Yeah, it's a jam-packed day. We get PCE inflation print, then we get NVIDIA earnings. Thursday, we get weekly jobless claims. Friday, the first Jackson Hole speech from relatively brand new Fed Chairman Kevin Warsh. What do you expect that he can communicate at Jackson Hole that maybe we have not yet heard from him? The couple FOMC meetings, we've already seen him behind the podium.
So I think it's going to be a more clearer view on the economy. He wasn't so specific about what the economy is doing, what inflation is doing, how he views it. So that I think we do see in the speech. But then unfortunately, the theme for this Jackson Hole is about payment systems and that sort of thing, financial innovation, interesting, but nothing about monetary policy. So he does have an excuse to say, great, I can just not say anything at all because I'm going to focus on financial innovation and payment systems and not tell anything about monetary policy. I think that's what will happen. We just don't get any signals from him. But he will outline what the economy is doing. That's typically the intro of the speech. And that, I think, is what markets will grab from, will pluck from, and say like, okay, this is your view now, and that's where the move will come in the markets.
Of course. Ben, unfortunately, I'm out of time. I know you brought us some stock picks as well, but come see us again in the next couple weeks. We'll talk about those.
Yep.
Ben Emmons, founder, CIO at FedWatch Advisors. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you, JD.
Skylar, take your microphone. You and I will talk soon. Here are a few at the top. Analyst calls that moved the tape this morning here on Wall Street. Fernando, gentlemen, thank you, bud. Appreciate that. Nixon 5, bud. First up, Raymond James upgrading AMD to a strong buy, lifting the price target to $641 a share. Server CPUs, a big strength stock in positive territory, 108% year to date. Next up, D.A. Davidson starting coverage on Dow component Sherwin-Williams. We go through this way, fellas? I'm sorry, pardon me. As a buy, they see earnings acceleration, $400 price target, shares up 7% on the year. Finally, 5 and below, downgraded this morning by Loop, now rated as a hold with a $250 price target, shares up 37% on the year. Do not adjust your screens at home. That does say Dick's Sporting Goods in the red today, more than 30%. They missed on earnings, they missed on revenue. Disappointing second quarter overall for Dick's Sporting Goods, which also reduced its full year outlook on top of everything else. Remember, they had that high profile acquisition of Foot Locker back in September 2025. Unfortunately, that part of the business is a particular challenge. We saw strong institutional selling on the stock all day today. It now drops down to its December 2023 levels. Almost 3 years of gains in this stock have now been wiped out. DKS now down 31% since the start of 2026. Well, the New York Stock Exchange's very own Ashley Mastronardi sat down with Matt Samaglia of Quantum Coast Capital to discuss a new quantum computing campus in the great state of Texas. Take a look.
Joining me now to share more is Matt Samaglia, managing partner of Quantum Coast Capital. Matt, welcome.
Ashley, thanks so much for having me on.
All right, so what is Occam Foundry?
So Occam Foundry was really out of this ask of the White House earlier this summer, where there needs to be more commercialization centers throughout the U.S. that's really propelling quantum forward. So the technology itself is actually becoming more mature every day, and there aren't enough locations to really incubate your ideas as a founder.
And why build physical infrastructure now?
So Texas is actually the 8th largest economy in the world. So Texas was a natural fit for us to be able to have this location and have this site. Why quantum right now? I think we're going to start seeing a lot more demand in the coming years. So if we start building now, by the time that demand is there, we'll have that influx of impasse.
And we're seeing it on the screen right now. It is a huge compound, over 16.5 acres. How did you find the space?
So it's right across the street from the Gigafactory. So naturally that was a fit. Also, it's about 15 minutes from the airport and 20 minutes from downtown Austin. There's so much of a technology scene happening in Austin itself that we look at this site being a hub and spoke model, where a lot of the core work can happen on our site, on the campus, and then we'll have spokes that go out throughout Texas and start to connect the whole state as a broader initiative.
So what will happen at this campus?
So to its core, we're going to have a quantum system. So that's really important to any company that's building anything quantum. We'll also have what I call a test kitchen for chip fab. So it's not meant to be the advanced packaging or the sort of major rollout of chips, but it's going to be something where you can test something as a founder and get it right to then hand off to one of the bigger foundries. We're also going to have a networking and sensing lab, and we're already in talks right now with an anchor tenant that would occupy on the space.
And as you mentioned, the president signed an executive order for quantum back in June. How is this changing the environment for what you're building?
So I would say it's really great because it's raising more awareness, and things like this also are helping the mainstream audience understand really what quantum technology is and what it's going to advance to. And when you have the White House or when you have the federal government supporting it and saying we need to be pushing forward and we need to be doing more in the space, it really helps the private sector propel it forward.
And can you talk about those executive orders that were signed?
Yeah, so one of them was specifically more around defense. So it's talking about cybersecurity. We know that there's something called Q-Day in the quantum industry. So it's this notion of harvest now, decrypt later. So I'm going to steal your information now. I can't open it, but once I have a fast enough quantum computer, I'll be able to open that. So that's that Q-Day notion. The executive order basically stated that we're upping the measure of where we're going to be implementing more of these strategies and more of these encryption technologies within major government assets, and they've rolled that date up. The other element to the executive order was quantum centers. Why don't we build more quantum hubs strategically around the country? You're seeing one happening right now in Chicago. I'm building two that I'm part of in Florida, and I'm talking to other states as well, including New York, about building hubs here. So having that collective strategy and having all of these nodes really attach themselves is going to be really helpful for the overall federal push on quantum.
And why did you decide to build this specific campus in Austin?
So look, again, I think that the talent is really incredible in Austin, and I think that when we look at the governor signing a bill last year in 2025 that specifically states that quantum is going to be a main priority of his administration, it was a natural element that it was a welcome sign for us to come in and actually build something there in the state of Texas.
And we also just launched NYSC Texas also in Texas. Do you think
everything's bigger in Texas?
Well, everything is bigger in Texas. Do you think it's becoming a center of innovation and a hub of innovation?
Yeah, I really do, and I think that they're following what a lot of other areas around the country are doing. I mean, look at what's happening in Miami right now. I mean, it's been hugely booming. That's my home state, and it's great to see all the activity that's happening there. Naturally, Texas, with everything that Elon Musk is doing, whether it's SpaceX or Tesla or even the new TerraFab that he just announced, these are all really incredible signs for various states to become part of a broader node system.
Your conference coming up in October, what can we expect?
We do, October 22nd, and it's really meant for everyone to feel welcome to the quantum conversation. So it's for business leaders, and this year's strategic coming out with a broader initiative around defense, and that's part of a study that we did over the last 4 or 5 months with Resonance, which is owned by the Quantum Insider, and that really kind of helped us shape what the strategy for Florida could be, and a lot of that strategy was centered around defense. So this year's Quantum Beach is going to be very exciting. We'll have a lot of speakers around the defense sector and cybersecurity.
And if people want to get involved or attend, where can they go?
So floridaquantum.org is a really great site for anyone to be able to see where they can get tickets for Quantum Beach. Right now there is a discount on the sale, so sign up early, and we're expecting to have about 400 or 500 people at this year's convention, almost double from last year.
Great. Matt Samaglia, partner of Quantum Coast Capital, thank you for joining us at the New York Stock Exchange.
Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome back to the broadcast. You are watching Taking Stock live from the trading floor of the New York Stock Exchange. I have been so much looking forward to this next interview for quite some time. Val Ackerman, Big East Commissioner. Really nice to see you again. Welcome back to the New York Stock Exchange.
Thank you. Always a pleasure to be here.
You are concluding a remarkable 13-year run in this role, overseeing what I said at the top of the broadcast, a little bit biased to say, the best conference in college sports. What has this journey meant to you? What are you most proud of here, Val?
Well, when I took this job 13 years ago, the schools that I represent were really on a mission. They wanted to keep the Big East traditions alive. They wanted to prove that a basketball conference could be successful in a world that's frankly dominated by college football. And I'm so proud of what together we and our schools have accomplished with national championships in men's basketball. UConn, of course, rejoined the league in 2020 and has added so much. And all the while, I think our schools have really stayed true to their values. And so for me, it's been an incredible run.
Pardon me, I didn't mean to interrupt. How important is it to protect the identity of the Big East, how unique, how special this conference is, and all the schools, the players, the fan bases, given where the spirit inherently is of conference realignment today?
Well, the conference has such a proud history. Founded in 1979, a group of sort of private schools focused on basketball, many of them Catholic institutions. And so keeping that DNA intact over the last 13 years has really been practically job one for me. And so I think we've been able to do that. We've maintained our ties to big cities. We're sort of ensconced here in New York City. Our offices are at the Empire State Building. We have a long-standing relationship with Madison Square Garden for our men's basketball tournament. And, you know, I think there really is a sense of commonality among our schools that is helpful to have at a time when so much change is going on in college sports.
And all of us who proudly went to a Big East school know there is nothing, and I mean nothing, in the world of sports quite like the Big East tournament every year at the MSG at the Madison Square Garden. What has that event meant to you as it has continued to grow and be arguably the most important event that goes on in the world of sports here in the city? Well,
thank you for saying that. We like to think of that as well, that it's really the best event of its kind in college basketball. It's got a long tradition at the Garden, 43 years and counting. We've negotiated 2 extensions since I've been involved that will keep the tournament at the Garden for at least 50 years. 2032 will represent the 50th anniversary of the event at the Garden, world's most famous arena. And so it really is the crown jewel of all of the championships that we run. And that's validated every year because of the great fan support we get there, not only from Villanova, your alma mater, but St. John's, UConn, all across the league. So hopefully those traditions can stay alive in the years to come.
There's also incredible conference camaraderie. As you said, if it's not the Villanova Wildcats that make the Final Four, we are all in on watching UConn, on watching Marquette, on seeing the Johnnies. We're very competitive in the conference, but we're fiercely defensive of the other schools outside the conference. How have you seen those kind of relationships school to school develop over the last decade plus?
Yeah, it's really been that. I mean, we started to see it early on when this group of schools came together for the first time in 2013. 7 had been together, and then Butler, Creighton, Xavier got added to make it 10, and now UConn back for 11. But there really is a sense of sort of brotherhood among the men's basketball coaches, fellowship among athletics directors, other administrators. We have a really good boardroom led by now Father Shanley, the president of St. John's. There's just a lot of cohesiveness in there, which again, in a day and age where there's just sort of a lot of change going on in college sports, to be able to point to sort of stability and cohesion and a common sense of purpose it's a gift. And you know, I've just been lucky that our schools have that in spades, and hopefully they can keep that sense of togetherness going, because they're going to need it as college sports continues to face challenges in the years ahead.
I'm sure you're familiar. I'm sure you've heard the New York Knicks are NBA champions. You had 5 different starters in the NBA Finals between the Spurs and the Knicks. Very proudly, we're from the Big East. What does that type of conference representation in the NBA Finals mean to you?
Well, I'll tell you, we put that on our social media platforms. We wanted to tell the world just how much of a connection the Big East had to, one of the most important events in the basketball calendar, the NBA Finals. The Nova Knicks were a huge story. I know that school was so proud of them. These are 3 athletes who got their degrees, went to the same school, played for the same coach, now are reunited in the pros, and they're bringing an NBA championship to the greatest city in the country. It was a pretty big deal. And we were very proud of not only them, but Stephen Castle as well, and Julian Champagny, who played for the Spurs. I think it really is a testament to how well the Big East prepares men's basketball players for the next level.
Yeah, and a tremendous testament to your 13 years in this particular role. Best of luck on what lies ahead, and I'm really grateful to see you down here and that you made time for us here on the show today, Val. Nice to see you.
Great, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Val Ackerman, folks. All right, don't go away. A lot more Taking Stock coming up on this Tuesday afternoon from the New York Stock Exchange right after this. Welcome back to the broadcast. Joining us now is a guest who probably has the coolest title of anyone I have ever interviewed. Alex Fine is the CEO of Fun. Alex, it's nice to see you today. Let's talk about Fun. What is it all about for people unfamiliar? And why does moving money still feel so complicated for far too many people in the banking system here in 2026?
Yeah, so Fun Fun's a payments company, and we approach payments a little bit differently than what you see in Web 2. In Web 2, in traditional banking, companies piece together payment rails, and in Web 3, and for blockchain-based payments, we build what are called universal deposits. And so we build the highest converting way to get money onto a blockchain, which is a better conduit for moving money in general.
Does the average consumer even need to know if their money is moving on chain?
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. No, the average consumer does not need to know, nor in my opinion, should they know. And in the future, most money, we believe, will be moving on chain, and most customers won't even realize that it's happening.
In what ways is moving money on chain different from a more traditional payment stack? Let's say a more traditional credit card with a bank, Venmo, et cetera?
Yeah, so I think the cross-border use case is a really good example. If you're moving money cross-border, you have a number of intermediaries to go from point A to point B. So if you're moving money on a credit card, you go from your bank to what's called the merchant's bank. Then the merchant, if they're international, needs to move from a local bank to a US bank, and then they need to manage their ops from there. Each one of these legs takes a fee. Each one of these legs takes time. Each one of these legs adds uncertainty. Whereas if you're moving money on chain, all that can be instant. It could be one-to-one, and just simply much more efficient.
What do you think is the biggest mistake that far too many companies are still making when they try and build payments in-house?
Yeah, so we see a lot of companies say, hey, we want to build a global payment stack. And their approach to building a global payment stack is to go through region by region. How do we find good rails for Europe? How do we find good rails for Brazil or Turkey or South Korea? And when you're piecing those together yourself, you end up with an extremely high overhead on the for the team, for the engineers. And then you also have generally a much lower product performance. And so generally the problem is the teams try to build themselves as opposed to just using a universal payments partner.
All right, Alex Fine is the CEO of Fun. Alex, grateful for your time. Thanks a lot for taking time for the broadcast.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
You got it. We'll talk to you again soon. Folks, don't go away. A whole lot more Taking Stock coming up right after this. Welcome back. Time now for a few headlines in the world of fintech, crypto, and AI. First up at this hour, the crypto majors in mixed territory. Bitcoin hitting 80,000 earlier today for the first time in a long time. Next up, Bitwise rolling out automated portfolios of tokenized U.S. stocks for eligible investors outside the U.S. Themes for the products include the Mag 7 AI and robotics. Finally, OpenAI saying its new Jalapeno AI chip, yeah, that's what it's called, outperformed NVIDIA's GB300 on both power efficiency as well as response speed in testing. The ChatGPT maker plans to start using the custom chips later on this year. Money 2020's very own Scarlett Sieber is now back to explain the ways that fintech companies actually make their money. Take a look.
I'm Scarlett Sieber with Money 2020, and this is how fintech companies actually make money, where trust becomes a product. Today we're going to be talking about TazzaPay, operating where payments and risk overlap. TazzaPay enables cross-border B2B payments with escrow-like protections, reducing counterparty risk between the buyers and the sellers. So how does TazzaPay actually make money? First, transaction and FX fees. TazzaPay earns on international payments and currency conversions. Second, risk pricing. Buyers and sellers pay for assurance that funds only move when these certain conditions are met. Third, trust compounding. Once counterparties transact successfully, TazzaPay becomes the default for future deals. Why does this matter right now? Because global trade is continuing. The trust part is getting harder and harder though, and more expensive to establish. TazzaPay, they monetize that confidence. And that is how TazzaPay actually makes money, by charging for trust where it doesn't exist by default. Have a comment or a company that you want us to feature, drop it in the link below, and it might just make the cut. In the meantime, back over to you.
Welcome back to the broadcast. Before we get you quickly caught up on what to expect tomorrow on Wall Street, the most important announcement of the day. Very happy birthday to Anna, our wonderful production intern. Hope you have a great day. We will see you back here at the big board later on this week. As for tomorrow, here on the street, 8:30 a.m., the latest PCE inflation print and the second estimate for the current quarter's GDP numbers. In the morning, before market open, quarterly results from Kohl's, Abercrombie & Fitch, and Williams-Sonoma. And this time tomorrow, in case you haven't already heard, Jensen Huang and the team at NVIDIA report quarterly results, plus Salesforce, CrowdStrike, and Okta. Thank you for watching this Tuesday afternoon edition of Taking Stock. Have a great night. We'll see you again tomorrow from the New York Stock Exchange.